How many investors do you need before a private placement is required? That's a pretty common question. And that's a question that we want to address now because several people have written in and asked about how to deal with this problem. Well, first, I want to tell you I'm not an attorney, as what many of you know. But what I've heard my attorneys say many times is that the private placement process is designed for securities. And a security is a financial instrument where one person gives another person their money with the expectation of the other person managing and creating profit for the two of them. And so, or at least for the investor. And so consequently, everything that we do is a security. Somehow or another, we, the promoters, are responsible for generating profits for those investors. So because they depend on us, they're passive, we're active, and for all those reasons, we have a security. Well, the securities rules are written pretty broadly, so it's pretty hard to get away from those rules. So the question is, how many rules or how many investors do we need before we are a security? Well, just listening to the attorney, the answer is if just one person invests, then you've got a security because there's a passive person, you're the active person. And it doesn't matter if you call them a JV partner. If something goes wrong, they're going to go straight to their attorney, and the attorney's going to say, well, were you active? No. Did you sign documents? No. Did you go to the property? No. Did you do anything related? Did you vote? Did you do anything? No. Then it's a fake deal and they're going to unwind it. So be very careful with those joint venture deals because they generally don't work out that well. But as far as how many people, if you have one investor, if it's your grandmother, that grandmother could be a passive investor and she could be holding a security, and you probably would be well off to have a private placement. But that's not the reason to write a private placement and the accompanying documents. The reason to write the private placement is not because the government says that you need to do that, which, by the way, I'm not even aware that the government says you have to do it. You don't even have to produce a private placement under most circumstances in these smaller exempt deals that we all work on. But here's what is important. If something goes wrong, you want to be able to point to a document that you gave the investor that says, look, these are all the many things that go wrong. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. We're going to tell you all the things that could go wrong. And by sharing all those kinds of things, you are absolutely going to be out in front of the curve, and you're going to be helping whatever your legal defense is in the future. So you want to make sure that you put those things out there crystal clear in a good way. You don't want the investor to come back at some point and say, well, gee, if I'd have known that, I never would have invested. That would be the worst thing. So one reason is because you want to make the disclosures and you want to put it out there. And it doesn't matter if it's your grandmother or 2 people or 4 people or 400 people. It doesn't really matter. You want to put those disclosures out there. But maybe the more important reason for producing the legal documents that are part of the private placement package, and that includes the disclosure document, which is the sale document for the securities, which is the private placement itself. The second piece is the operating agreement. And the third piece is the subscription agreement, which is the document that they fill out to buy the securities. So let's take a look at these. So the private placement itself, that's the security document where you're selling the securities. You're making all the disclosures. And by the way, the word placement in the stock business means sale. So place means sell. So private placement, you're doing a private sale as opposed to a public sale. AT&T, General Motors, these are big public companies. They sell their stocks publicly, so they do a public placement. We sell privately, we do a private placement, and it's very simple. And the way that we control our relationship with our investors is using an operating agreement. The operating agreement describes who gets paid what, how the investors get paid, how we get paid, who gets paid first, who gets paid second, if there's a preferred return paid, how much that is, how it happens, what fees we're allowed to take, what reimbursements we can take. Everything about our relationship is laid out crystal clear in these documents. It's really important to have these. So forget about any rules that you think about. And if the government's involved, which they're not, I want you to really think, how great would it be for you to have the kind of control over your deal that you need by having this kind of a document in place? Having a really solid operating agreement is fantastic. It really gives you the kind of control that you need over your deal. Now, a lot of people, they just want to cut corners. They want to go to the stationery store, buy the cheapest document they can for with the least money they can, go to the bargain basement attorney who doesn't do this for a living. They do it once in a while. This is not the kind of thing that you go to a garden variety attorney for. You want to know the best attorney, get the best advice, because you're going to be stuck with this document for a long, long time. So you don't want to cut corners. You want to do it absolutely the best you can and put it out there so you have a really strong document and a really strong deal that gives you all of the control over that deal that you need. So bottom line, how many investors does it take before you're required to have a private placement? It doesn't even matter. The answer is you're not required because there aren't any specific rules about it in the private placement world per se. Go ask your attorney to comment on that. But the main reason that you want to do it is not because you have to, it's because you want to. You want to create a set of documents that gives you the kind of control over your deal that you want. And with that, go out and enjoy this business.